Paramus Regional Chamber of Commerce and to Paramus, the crossroads of Bergen County. My name is Fred Rodick, and I have the pleasure of being the president of the Paramus Regional Chamber of Commerce. So we thank you all very much for being here. It's a great crowd. We got important people here. We got important members of the Chamber of Commerce from around New Jersey, northern New Jersey mostly. So we're going to have an interesting couple of minutes here, and we'll hopefully learn a lot. And we will also have a chance to listen. And hopefully a little later on have a chance to have some conversations about things. So it's going to be an interesting couple of minutes now, so let's get started. Let me introduce Tom Bracken, who's the president of the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce, and he can start the events off. Tom.
Thank you, Fred. First of all, I'm here to talk about this Tax Reform Act coming out of Washington, but I think before I say anything about that, we have to put this into context. New Jersey is in a crisis mode right now. We have an economy that's in trouble. We are the highest tax state in the country. We are the most unaffordable state in the country. We have more people out migrating from the state than any other state in the country. From a business competitive standpoint, we are dropped to almost 50 out of 50 at any poll you look at. So we're absolutely in a crisis mode right now. The thing we cannot afford right now is to become less affordable, to become less competitive, and to continue to give people the incentive to leave this state or not be attracted to this state. The Tax Reform Act does that. The Tax Reform Act, if you look at it on the surface, to build the economy, to create jobs, etc., it makes all the sense in the world, and there are a lot of very positive aspects of the Tax Reform Act that many companies and individuals in the state of New Jersey will benefit from. But we are one of only 4 states that, when you add it all together with all the negatives of the lack of tax deductions that are being taken out, that we are only one of 4 states that are impacted negatively by this around the country. Tax Reform Act should be something that every state benefits from. We do not. And we have an issue of the real estate problem we're going to have with values going down, which is going to impact property taxes. We have an issue of the tax rates going up for individuals. We have the issue of this thing sunsetting in 2025, which, although there's some benefits right now to people, in 2025, if there's not a receptive Congress, all this goes away. So all the pain, all the benefit they've had goes away, and the pain stays. So we have many, many issues with this thing, and anything like this that's fast-tracked, like this is being fast-tracked in Washington, buyer beware, because fast-tracking means it's not fully vetted, it's not fully discussed, and this thing is so impactful to the U.S. and individual states that it needs much more dialogue, and it needs much more rounding the edges to make sure every state, including New Jersey, benefit from this. So if you take that on one side of the equation and look at the fact that in New Jersey we have a new administration coming in that's also talking about some additional taxes on the state and some additional things that are going to be anti-business, at least on the surface, we have a situation that we just cannot afford to do at this time. It's very dangerous for the state of New Jersey. It's very dangerous for businesses, although some will benefit. And I think if you look at the thing in its entirety, we have something here that could be as toxic as anything that has been perpetrated on this state for many, many years. We have a congressional delegation in Washington that, for the most part, is against it. There's one member who have voted for it. But I will say, and in all honesty, probably the most vocal of our congressmen who have been against this and have stood up from day one and been vehemently against this is the person I'm going to introduce next, Congressman Josh Gottheimer, who has been very, very pro-New Jersey, and by being against this Tax Reform Act, that is about as pro-New Jersey as you're going to get right now. So all I can say is we have a very dangerous situation that we have to avoid. Our Congressman Josh Gottheimer is leading that charge, and it's my pleasure to introduce him right now. Josh Gottheimer.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you very much for being here today. Really grateful. Thanks for organizing this. I'm really grateful, Fred, that you did this. And I'm really appreciative on the day before, or 2 days before Thanksgiving, when everyone's trying to travel, that you all came out to stand here today. It means a lot, and for what you do every single day for commerce in our towns and for businesses as leaders. It is really, really wonderful what you do. And we couldn't ask for a better leader of business in the state of New Jersey than Tom Bracken. He's not only become a friend, but somebody that I look to personally when I'm making decisions about how I look at policies for the state of New Jersey and for how we're going to grow our economy in the state of New Jersey. And Tom, so thank you so much for what you're doing and for being out there against this tax hike bill early. And I think we both agree we both come from the private sector. I'm as pro-business as it gets. I want our economy to grow. But when you analyze this bill, and believe me, we've been looking at this thing from moment one, because the worst thing that could possibly happen is actually we pass something that comes out to be a tax hike instead of a tax cut. And I'm deeply, deeply concerned about this piece of legislation. So we spent some time actually going through this, if it's okay. And my team, we sat around, we've got a lot of experts, and I want to just lay out an argument. It's a little full-throated. You can leave in the middle of my speech if you want. But we really, really took it seriously to make sure that we explain to people why this is so bad for the state of New Jersey. First, and I think this is really important, we've got to set the record straight about the tax hike legislation that's moving through Congress. We've got to draw a line in the sand and tell Congress we won't stand for a tax hike bill that will jack up our tax rates, eliminate key state and local homeownership deductions, destroy our property values, and likely send people, jobs, and businesses fleeing from our state. This tax hike bill is not pro-business, and it's certainly not pro-New Jersey. You may have heard some politicians claim that this tax hike bill gives sorely needed relief to middle-class taxpayers. You might have seen some ads on TV, bought and paid for by certain lobbying groups, telling you that this proposal is good for Main Street, that it will supercharge the economy and create thousands of jobs. Don't be fooled. The tax hike bill the House of Representatives passed last week would further dismantle New Jersey's main streets, hurting our business owners and workers, risking not creating jobs and wealth. And the bill that passed the Senate Finance Committee last week, even worse. Just ask my Republican and Democratic colleagues from New Jersey in the House. Every one of them, every Democrat, every Republican member of Congress, but one, voted against this bill. Now, if you talk to Tom, and when he immediately looked at the words that he said, if I immediately look at the words that he said after this piece of legislation, he said, and I think this was spot on, so I hope you don't mind me quoting you. No. But you said if this legislation is approved, people and businesses will have another reason to leave New Jersey. This proposal is exactly what we do not need at this time. I couldn't agree more. Now, I came to Congress to fight for tax cuts for New Jersey. So I've been looking for a plan that actually cuts taxes for people and businesses of all sizes here in New Jersey. And I'm ready to support one that actually does that. After all, our small business owners don't get sufficiently rewarded for the risks they take and the jobs they create. Critically, New Jersey needs to have tax rates that allow us to compete successfully with other states for jobs and for people. And we need corporate tax cuts to keep us competitive globally, so companies don't move their jobs and headquarters to other countries. At 35% right now, we have the highest corporate tax rate among all OECD countries, and the fourth highest tax rate in the world. The global average is 22.96. We're simply not competitive at that rate, and so what I like about this piece of legislation is that it actually brings corporate rates down. That's good. So I'm all for those kind of tax cuts. But the problem is, the rest is a tax hike on our state. And believe me, we crunched the numbers. We've sat with CPAs, as I said, and did the math for Jersey. And it's because I want to get to yes. And I will continue working with both parties to get there. And the pieces of the legislation that are good about cutting corporate tax rates, I support. But if you look at the bill in its totality, and I think that's what we have to do, you have to look at these things. You can't just look at pieces. You have to say, what's the overall impact? The legislation that was approved by Congress, and as Tom said, that is racing through the Senate, sticks it to Jersey and will make us less competitive in the end. It's a boon to other states that already suck up our tax dollars and gives them even more at the expense of our residents, our businesses, and New Jersey's future. Here's why. First, let's start with what directly affects us. This tax hike bill doesn't actually provide relief to most businesses. Many pass-through entities, which 90% of small businesses are organized as, are left out. This tax hike bill helps only to the extent your income is extremely high, and then only provides that reduced rate to 30% of your net business income. The rest is still taxed at the full individual rate. And as you heard, the full individual rate actually stays high at 39.6. So we're not giving tax relief there. On top of that, there are a whole new set of regulations yet to be written about what's counted as pass-through income and what has to be taxed at personal rates. So if your business provides personal services, like accountants, lawyers, architects, consultants. The bill provides no pass-through relief at all. Forbes magazine, right, a good business magazine, asked, quote, why is the Republican Congress turning its back on small business job creators now? I have the same question. Second, the bill is going to hike taxes on New Jersey residents and families and hurt our economy by taking money out of our pockets. Democrats and Republicans alike agree this tax hike bill will raise taxes on our families. According to the Institute for Tax and Economic Policy, New Jersey will see a $140 million per year tax increase due to this tax hike legislation. Both the House and Senate tax hike bills eliminate the state and local income tax deduction, or SALT, as we know it, and the Senate bill eliminates the deduction for any property taxes. Any. That means we can't deduct a nickel of our property taxes. Imagine that in this state. The House version allows for only a $10,000 deduction. So now if you live in Oklahoma City, where the average property tax bill is $1,179 on average, you understand that $10,000, okay. In Oradell, it's $16,851 as the average. The state and local tax deduction has been around since 1913 to help avoid double taxation. I mean, it's bad enough we have to get taxed once. They want to tax us twice. This bill would eliminate SALT. Now, we ran some tax returns. Consider a family of four right here in Paramus. The mother is a teacher and the father is a police officer. Each year, this family makes it a point to donate to their local church. Under this tax plan, they're going to see their tax bill go up $4,900. Right? So under this tax hike plan in Paramus, right, family of four will go up $4,900. And 5 years after that, because Tom was talking about the sunsets, it will go up to $5,500. That's a tax increase, a tax hike on New Jersey. Now, try to come up with that extra $5,500. Somebody in the record today wrote, the average total state and local tax deduction in Saddle River, I don't know if you saw this piece, in Saddle River, came to $80,567. The ability to deduct that will literally go away, like that, under this tax hike bill. Now, there are plenty of other examples, but you get the point. How are we going to convince a company, an executive, a small business, to set up shop after they do this math? As it is, it's way too expensive to live here and work here. It's why I think we should be cutting taxes. This just makes it much more expensive, and it's not like there isn't competition from other states. CEOs, I'm sure, tell you, and our other businesses tell you, and I know they tell Tom, we've talked about this a lot, right, that they get calls all the time from other states that say, come here, our taxes are less, it's more affordable, come over here. And now they're going to try to jack up taxes more on us? I don't understand how we're going to fight that back. And as Tom talked about, and to fight the out-migration. By using the elimination of SALT as the key way to pay for this House tax hike bill, Congress decided to dump the entire cost of this at our doorstep. So while we're already sending all these federal tax dollars to these other states, taxes will go up more here. You've heard me talk about this, right? I think it's outrageous. Like Mississippi and Oklahoma and other places and Alabama, right? They pay less in taxes and then they get a higher rate of return back from the federal government, right? Mississippi gets $4.38 back for every dollar it sends to Washington. We get back here 33 cents on the dollar in the 5th Congressional District, 67 cents statewide. Again, you talk about Oklahoma. I don't mean to pick on them. I just looked them up, right? Their average home price is $142,000. There's a difference, right? You can imagine all their costs of living are less than they are here. Third, this tax hike bill will crush New Jersey's real estate market. The legislation slashes homeowners' ability to deduct their mortgage payments by 50%, capping the deduction at $500,000 and eliminating the ability to deduct a second home. These changes are going to devastate, in my opinion, and on the opinion of lots of experts, the value of home ownership in New Jersey. Some experts put out a study showing that home values with these changes will go down in New Jersey by more than 10% overnight. 10%. For a homeowner that put 10% down, this means that all their hard-earned payment would be gone. And we know people relying on their homes for their equity and their retirement nest eggs. And you might imagine with mass real estate devaluation, defaults, banks, and others underwater, it will freeze up lending, and it could lead to a recession. I feel like we've seen this movie before. Real estate-related businesses are 1/6 of our economy, from construction to home furnishing, from realtors to roofers to mortgage brokers. As we saw in '08, declining real estate markets ripple through our economy, and it's a disaster for our state, further pushing people and businesses away in favor of other states. That, to me, is unacceptable. Fourth, this tax hike bill eliminates a common kind of financing used to fund hospitals and colleges here. Nonprofits like Valley and Hackensack hospitals are able to borrow money using private activity bonds. These bonds are similar to muni bonds. People who own the bonds don't have to pay taxes on the interest. They've become a critical financing tool for these projects and have helped us be at the top in terms of the life sciences market in the country, in the state of New Jersey, and in terms of top hospitals. Here in the 5th Congressional District, Hackensack Hospital is the top employer. The other hospitals are also top employers. One hospital CEO called me and told me that without these bonds, the cost of her project that they're working on not far from here, and you know what hospital I'm probably talking about, will go up $8 to $12 million because of the loss of these bonds. These costs will be borne by patients and businesses who buy health insurance, and of course, hospitals are big customers and the biggest employers here. Fifth, and I'm sorry for the litany, but this is how bad this tax hike bill is. I think we should all know about it. The tax hike bill hurts New Jersey differently than other states because, as I've talked about, we are a higher cost state, which means businesses and people will leave. By targeting the state and local tax deductions, the tax committees decided to basically declare war on New Jersey and the Northeast. They know that their states, as I say, I call them moocher states, take far more from the federal government than they send in. Right? That's the numbers we were just talking about. Now, these tax expenditures aren't getting closed, but yet we're increasing the actual taxes on us and lessening what we get back. So when you start to do the math, you realize it's going to get worse for us, not better. It's why the day of the vote last week, so one of my colleagues came up to me, a Southern congressman, a friend, looked at me with a big grin and said, "Today's the day we get to stick it to the Northeast." That's how they're viewing, yeah, literally, right? That's how they understand that this tax hike bill comes on our backs, which is why he's smiling, saying, "Yep, we get to stick it to you." Right? It's not like they're hiding the fact here. This is what we're talking about. While taxpayers in New Jersey and 3 other states will pay $16.7 billion more under the bill, 46 states will receive a $100 billion tax cut. Let me say that again. In New Jersey and 3 other states, we will pay $16.7 billion more in taxes under this bill. 46 other states will get tax relief of $100 billion. That's why they smiled and said, "We're sticking it to the Northeast today and sticking it to Jersey." Now, this isn't a case of sour grapes. It means that it will be even cheaper to live and operate businesses in Florida and Texas. Look, he's even upset. We all know people who have already moved out of New Jersey to save taxes. One CPA told me he was advising his daughter, who already lives in Texas, not to come home because of the tax bill. And we've lost Hertz and Mercedes, and I know that others are teetering on the edge. Young people, as Tom has talked about, and I've heard him give this speech, young people are leaving our state just as their careers are beginning. We're experiencing the worst out-migration and brain drain in the country. When you're 48th, 49th, or 50th in business friendliness, and you look at the cost, people, when young people are looking at their choices after they graduate from our incredible institutions, say, "I can't afford to live there." Just 2 people come home to our state for every 3 who leave. The New Jersey Business Industry Association estimates that New Jersey has lost $21 billion in adjusted gross income since 2004 just from people leaving the state. That's 87,000 jobs, $13 billion in lost economic activity, and $4.6 billion in lost labor income. So we can brag about our great schools, which I do all day long, and our educated workforce, our incredible cops and firefighters in our safe communities, our bagels. But to get people to stay, it's true, we're second to none. But at the end of the day, if the taxes keep going up and the costs keep going up of living here, I'm worried that employers like yourselves will say, as much as we want to, it's too expensive for us to stay here. Or that headquarters will pack up as they're doing and say, "We've got to leave here. It's just too expensive." And we got to pay our bills. Those bills just keep piling up. One recent estimate said that each man, woman, and child in Jersey owes $27,300 for our liabilities. We've got bonds to pay and roads to fix. But when businesses leave and people leave, and high earners leave, it just gets worse. It actually spreads it out and will raise the tax bills on all of us. Finally, this tax hike bill is fiscally irresponsible. It's budgeted to increase the deficit by $1.5 trillion over 10 years. As you know, that will equate to higher taxes and interest rates for borrowing for businesses and homeowners down the road. And the bill is loaded with a lot of tricky gimmicks, right? I mean, don't just take my word for it. The head of the White House Office of Management and Budget said, and I quote, "A lot of this is a gimmick," end quote. Little quote, "A lot of this is a gimmick," end quote. To fit within the budget limit of $1.5 trillion deficit increase, the bills have many provisions that are delayed or expire. And Tom talked about this. The tax hike bill provides that a $600 per person tax credit expires in 5 years. And the Senate bill provides that all individual benefits under the bill expire in 2026. So they really expect taxes to end up going up in the out years and deficits to grow. We're spending money we don't have and piling it on our children. The highly respected and nonpartisan Tax Policy Center estimated yesterday that the bill will add $1.3 trillion to the deficit, even taking into account economic growth generated. So they built in all the economic growth with this, and they still say it's going to go up $1.3 billion. And it will add 5.3 percentage points to the ratio of debt to GDP. And that's in the first 10 years. Over the next 10 years, it's expected to be $1.5 trillion more. And if interest rates go up, go higher, those numbers will get worse. We all know where that leads. More tax increases down the line, higher interest rates for everyone and for businesses. As a CEO told me last night, these changes will kill Jersey. Our taxes will go up more, businesses and employers will flee, and they'll go to the moocher states. That's why, along with my New Jersey Democrat and Republican colleagues, I'll keep fighting this tax hike bill. I'll keep working across the aisle to fix it so that we can get to a bill together that we stand here and say, let's get behind this, because it actually cuts taxes for New Jersey. I promise you that I want to stand here, and I know Tom does too, and say, okay, let's actually get a tax cut, not a tax hike. And I think that should be our goal. We are long overdue in this state. And I'll finish with this great letter I received yesterday. Well, I don't think it's a great letter. This letter I received, but it just makes the point. Quote, "I've been a lifelong supporter of the Republican Party and also supported Donald Trump during the 2016 elections. However, I've been doing research on tax reform and wanted you to know if passed, and if SALT getting past the House and continues to go through the Senate, it would force me to consider moving out of the state and sell my home, which my family loves." This is the problem. Let's get together. Let's get bipartisan tax reform done that lowers taxes at every level, top to bottom. Let's cut taxes for New Jersey. Let's simplify the code and make it more competitive. We need to make sure that tax reform fosters economic growth and creates jobs in the great state of New Jersey. Thank you very much.